You know the name, Sam Altman, CEO of OpenAI, the guy who basically handed ChatGPT to the world and, wow, almost overnight became the face of our AI future. But here's the thing. In just a couple of years, he's gone from this tech visionary to, well, one of the most polarizing figures out there. So today, we're going to unpack that. We're going to look at his pretty stunning reputational collapse.
So, let's just put it out there. Is Sam Altman the most hated man in tech? I mean, it's a huge question, right? And it's really what's framing this whole deep dive. When you think of, disliked tech execs, a few other names probably pop into your head first. But the story with Altman, it's way more complicated than you might think.
And honestly, the data might actually surprise you. If you just look at general public polling, Sam Altman, he's not even in the top 3 for being disliked. I mean, look at this. You've got Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg way ahead. So if we're just going by these numbers, the answer to our big question is a pretty simple nope.
But of course, that's not the whole story. Not even close. See, the real issue isn't about whether the general public likes him or not. It's something much deeper, much more specific. It's what you could call specialized distrust. Sam Altman has somehow managed to create this really intense animosity inside the very communities that build, that regulate, and that create with this technology. And that is where this story gets really interesting.
Okay, so how on earth did we get here? Well, it all started with some serious cracks showing up in the very foundation of OpenAI itself. These cracks started to reveal this deep conflict between what the company said it was and what it was actually doing.
You have to remember, OpenAI started as a nonprofit. Its whole mission was to build safe artificial general intelligence, AGI, for all of humanity. Noble, right? But then, by late 2024, with investors breathing down their necks, the company announces this plan to basically throw that mission out the window by stripping the nonprofit board of all its control. I mean, people saw this as a massive betrayal of its core principles. It was so bad that it only stopped after this huge public and legal outcry forced them to do a complete 180.
And, oh yeah, people called out the hypocrisy immediately. We're talking AI pioneers, legal scholars. They put out this open letter arguing that Altman was tearing down the very safeguards he himself used to say were absolutely essential. This was the moment, right here, when trust inside that core AI community just started to completely shatter.
And this wasn't just, some boring corporate restructuring thing. It became cultural. OpenAI started systematically taking apart its own internal safety teams. First to go, the super alignment team. Its co-leader, Jan Leik, he resigns with this really stark warning. He said, safety culture has taken a back seat to shiny products. Ouch. Then, the AGI readiness team, gone too. The message to the entire tech world couldn't have been clearer. Speed and profit were now number 1. Safety, not so much.
Right, so all this rot happening on the inside, it was only a matter of time before it exploded into public view. And it did, with one single decision that became a massive tipping point, a deal with the US military.
This move created this incredibly stark ethical moment. You had OpenAI's main rival, Anthropic, drawing a hard red line in the sand. They actually refused a $200 million Pentagon deal because they were worried about autonomous weapons. Now, get this. On the very same day that OpenAI closes a mind-boggling $110 billion funding round, Sam Altman announces, yep, we'll take that military deal. The optics were just unavoidable. It looked like he was cashing in on his rival's moral stance for a massive payday. And Altman's defense? Oh man, it only dug the hole deeper. He basically turned around and accused Silicon Valley of hypocrisy. He's like, you can't be warning about an AI race with China on one hand and then refuse to help your own military on the other. He tried to frame it as a civic duty, but for a lot of people in tech, it sounded like he was just turning OpenAI into an arm of the military-industrial complex.
And the public backlash, wow. It was unlike anything the software world had ever seen before. This QuitGPT movement just went viral. Within just 48 hours, 2 days, an estimated 1.5 million users had joined the boycott. And the numbers? They were absolutely devastating for OpenAI. App uninstalls shot up by nearly 300%. One-star reviews just flooded the app stores, jumping over 700%. And at the same time, Anthropic's app, Claude, rocketed to number 1. People were actively looking for what they saw as the ethical alternative.
But look, this wasn't just a PR crisis with the public. Sam Altman was now basically fighting a war on all fronts. He was alienating creatives, legal experts, and maybe most surprisingly, even his own corporate partners.
Suddenly, his company was getting hammered with these massive copyright lawsuits. We're talking big names, like the New York Times, the Authors Guild. The core argument was always the same, that OpenAI's whole business model was built on just sucking up copyrighted material without paying for it.
And there's this one key word that has absolutely devastated OpenAI's legal defense: regurgitation. See, evidence started coming out showing that ChatGPT could reproduce word for word huge chunks of a Pulitzer-winning New York Times series. This wasn't just learning anymore, this was straight-up digital copying, and it totally blew up their whole fair use argument.
And then came the hubris, Project Stargate. It was this promised $500 billion AI supercomputer, announced with all this fanfare, at the White House no less. But it stalled out almost immediately. There was infighting, missed targets, and ultimately, banks just refused to finance this gigantic project for a company that was burning through $8 billion a year. It was a huge hit to Altman's reputation as this flawless visionary who could get anything done.
On top of all that, he was alienating his own ecosystem of developers and partners. I mean, think about it. He betrayed the open in OpenAI by creating a totally closed monopoly. He abruptly retired a really popular model with just 2 weeks' notice, leaving thousands of developers completely stranded. And then, in maybe the most shocking move of all, he was reportedly building a direct competitor to GitHub, the product owned by his #1 financial backer, Microsoft. Just wow.
Okay, so after looking at all of this, let's circle all the way back to that original question and see if we can land on a final, more nuanced verdict.
So is Sam Altman the most hated man in tech? To the general public, no, probably not. But he has cultivated this deep, specific, and really intense distrust among the people who actually matter most in his world. To the AI safety community, he's the guy who dismantled safety. To civil society and regulators, he's the one who abandoned the mission. For creators, he built a multi-billion-dollar business on their uncompensated work. And to the engineers and developers, he's a hypocrite who stabs his partners in the back.
And on top of all these professional controversies, there's a deeply disturbing personal one. In January of 2026, a lawsuit was filed by his own sister alleging severe and prolonged sexual abuse. Now, Altman and his family have vehemently denied these claims, but the allegations themselves have raised these profound, unavoidable questions about his moral fitness to lead a technology that has the potential to alter the world.
There's a quote from the source material we've been looking at that really just says it all. It calls his journey the rapid, absolute erosion of techno-utopian goodwill. And when you look at the facts, it's hard to argue. He systematically dismantled the very ethical foundation OpenAI was supposed to be built on.
Which really leaves us with one final huge question to think about. When a technology is this powerful, when it promises to literally change everything about our world, who exactly do we trust to build it?